welcome back, and if it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Mallory Britt with Mountain Lakes Insurance, your board chair. It feels good to be back in here, doesn't it? Well, we have a great program today, but first I'd like to start off the meeting by introducing the other Woodstock board members so you can put faces with names if you don't already know us. So if I call your name, if you could just stand, and if you guys can kind of hold your applause till the end, we can celebrate them all at once. Jacob Sluter with Dentistry of Bonnie Kahili, volunteer extraordinaire. Janet Panettiere, Family Life Publications. Melissa Madigan with Truist Bank. Robin Wright with Silverton Mortgage. There's also Brian Stockton, the CEO. Sylvia Breitbart with the COO, and Stacy Brown and Kyle Bennett as staff. So give them a round of applause for all of their volunteer, hours. And I know we all look forward to this meeting, hearing from Mayor Donna Enriquez to deliver the state of the city. And for those of you that don't know Mayor Donnie, he was the first to serve as a city council member for Ward 6 upon its creation in 1999. He served as a city council member from January of 2000 through December of 2003. He was elected in 2005 to serve as his first term as mayor, and he began his fourth consecutive term as mayor in January of 2018 and will serve through December of 2021. He and his wife Jan have 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and which I told him, I just learned this, that he's originally from New Orleans, a huge Saints and LSU fan. Go Tigers. So if you could all help me with a warm welcome for Donnie Mayor.
Good morning. Let me get settled here for a second so I don't mess up. Some of y'all know that. Weird year. Today is a weird day. Last year, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 attending. But this year we had to cap it, or they had to cap it at 50. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Some thanks to get out of the way before we get started. Brian, Stockton, Stacy, and Sylvia, thank you for helping put this together. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I'd like to introduce somebody. She's out there somewhere. Is Representative Charlize Bird from District 20. There she is. Give her a... She is our new old representative. So she took an 8-year sabbatical, but she's back, and we're appreciative of her service. We've got some department directors here, I think. No? Okay, all right, we'll get to that in a minute. In many ways, 2020 was the hardest year that I've had to deal with in my 16 years as mayor. I'm sure everybody understands why. It certainly was the most unusual. There were many counterintuitive things that happened during the middle of the pandemic. We saw record sales tax collections and issued more single-family building permits at any time since the mid-2000s, when Woodstock was one of the fastest-growing cities in the United States. While some sectors of our economy were doing great, many were not. We spent a good deal of time focusing on how we could help small businesses, hotels, restaurants, which were hit with the brunt of the impact of the pandemic. We also had to focus on how we could help our residents both with their daily food needs and with connectivity issues brought about by the schools being forced into virtual classrooms. And we've had to deal with the impacts of the virus on our community and workforce. At this point, I need to make a comment about our incredible staff. I've said this often whenever I'm asked, how have we been so successful in my 16 years? Well, it takes a good staff. And it starts First and foremost in 2008 when our city manager, Jeff Moon, started. So Jeff is right over there. For them, 2020 was incredibly challenging, both from dealing with the COVID response as well as societal issues we struggled with as a country. They never once blinked or turned away from their duties and continued daily to keep our community safe. I am forever grateful for their efforts and professionalism. Our non-public safety employees adapted quickly to a virtual environment and to working from home and didn't skip a beat by continuing to keep things moving forward and offering exceptional customer service in a challenging environment. I am forever grateful to them as well. I want to step aside for a moment right here and tell you how much I appreciate what our information technology department did this year. They scrambled and got us back online with virtual meetings, and I believe we only missed one meeting due to the COVID, where we were getting geared up for these virtual meetings. And they did a terrific job. Today's presentation will be a little different than in most years. I want to start the presentation with a recap of our COVID response, which is the number one elephant in the room, and cover some of the items that I just mentioned, and then we'll look at some of the normal areas that I address each year. Coronavirus response. In a very trying year, the city was able to act nimbly to respond to the pandemic and support its residents and businesses with financial support, virtual business assistance, and communications and new programs to promote new ways of doing business. Good, it's following. The CARES Act grants. This was money provided by the federal government funneled through the state to each municipality and county to help with the expenses, the added expenses, I should say, from coronavirus. We came up with two ways that we could help our community, specifically using dollars from this act. And I want to introduce now one of our assistant city managers who actually came up with the idea of this. Cody Thigpen joined us in January. Give her a hand for such a great idea. You can see Cody standing next to me in a presentation of a check. First and foremost, the food pantry assistance. We provided 6 local food pantries with over $40,000 to provide assistance to families in need. And let me tell you, these organizations do a wonderful job using that money. If they got a $10,000 grant, one of them told me specifically that $10,000 turns into $70,000 in providing assistance to people that actually have to put food on the table. The mobile Wi-Fi hotspots, which I mentioned in my opening remarks, was presented by the CCCSD, which is the school district, and we gave them a $90,000 grant to provide 231 mobile Wi-Fi devices to Woodstock area students needing remote access. And when we met with them to talk about this idea, the one comment I made to the 3 principals for all 3 schools that are in the city limits, think big. And I think they took it to heart because they originally were saying, oh, if we can get 10 or 20. I said, no, think big. And that's where they came up with the number of 231. Also under response, we started a video series. I did some of them, council members did some, business leaders did some. The team produced a series of public statements, PSAs and public statements by myself to disseminate important information during the shutdown. A couple of people I interviewed, Dr. Zachary Taylor, who's the medical director of the Cherokee County Health Department, where I serve on the board of directors. And one other that was important is the COO of Northside Hospital, Katie Pearson. These were very informative videos that we put online. And I want to thank specifically Stacy Brown for heading up that program. Testing site security, our police department provided more than 2,000 hours providing security in Woodstock. And if anybody got tested during the beginning of this pandemic, you know traffic was a big issue. So they did a wonderful job. They also participated in drive-by birthdays. Anybody out there participate in any of those? No? They were fun. They did one in my neighborhood. They had about 25 cars, police department vehicles, and fire department when they could get away. The Meals for Woodstock, with funding from the CARES Act and partners at First Baptist Church of Woodstock and Vincenzo's right across the street, Meals for Woodstock provided over 2,400 meals at the 10 events to date, but they're still doing it. Whoops. Some of the things we did to help our local businesses. The council waived or reduced business license, regulatory, and other fees for qualifying small businesses. It is estimated that businesses will save a total of over $150,000 through this program. Also, we provided a landing page for to-go options for restaurants on the website. And the downtown videos, kind of stretching forward from the videos I talked about a minute ago, Stacy and Brian and others went around interviewing business owners, talking about how the effects are, what they're hoping to accomplish, and how we can help. And these were highly viewed videos online. I mentioned earlier the virtual meetings and events. IT department quickly set up a system to hold completely virtual and hybrid council and planning commission meetings. Through the CARES Act funding, the chambers, where we hold our meetings, is receiving additional physical and technology upgrades to continue to hold safe and distant meetings. Excuse me. Did it again. Virtual and online solutions. With the building and office closures the norm in the early part of the year, IT was able to quickly install systems that allowed staff to work from home. Additional resources were put in place to allow the public to continue to conduct business with the city electronically. And one of the first things I did through executive order is we mandated that anybody coming in to a city property, especially in the building department looking for permits, we required them to wear masks. We still do that. And also we require employees when they're dealing with the public or other employees to have their mask on. City of Woodstock is staffed by over 200 full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees across 9 divisions who work daily to provide the highest level of professionalism, leadership, and customer service to citizens, stakeholders, and visitors. This past year, we swore in not 3 new members of council, but 3 existing members of council who were reelected in January of 2019. They ran the best race you can possibly run. They were unopposed. And this year we do have another election, 3 council members. It's staggered by city charter. Ward 1, Warren Johnson. Ward 3, Colonnade, and Ward 5, Brian Wolf, and myself will run for re-election if we so desire. Our assistant city managers, you actually met them last year. They were brand new in their positions. I've already introduced Cody Thigpen. She joined us in January as assistant city manager and oversees the HR, IT, GIS, and municipal court functions. The other assistant city manager came from within. Rob Hogan was promoted to assistant city manager for Public Works, overseeing the Public Works Department and the water sewer utility. Rob's right there. Rob, stand up and let them know who you are. Our finance department got a new CFO. Ron Shelby started just after last year's State of the City. He's done a wonderful job picking right up right where our former CFO started. Also, we promoted Crystal Welch to Deputy Chief Financial Officer. Crystal is a wonderful story for the city. Her and Mary Beth Stockdale started about the same time I became mayor, and they were part-time receptionists. And Crystal's worked her way up to Assistant Deputy Chief Financial Officer. Here knows the job that Mary Beth Stockdale did. The Senior Center saw Jan Massey retire after 10 years of service. That's Jan on the right. She did a fantastic job for the seniors. Barry Martin came on board at the most challenging time you can possibly do. Of course, we had to shut down the Senior Center, and he was tasked as a new director, come up with a plan where we could open partially safely, and he's done that with flying colors. Employee recognition. We had our canine Dugan retire. He'll be a family pet and reside on a 25-acre farm with Danny West, who is retired EMS Chief of Operations with Cherokee Fire Department. We welcome canine Tessa, 2-year-old Belgian. Does anybody know how to say that? Okay, thank you. She's from Serbia, certified in narcotics apprehension, evidence recovery, and tracking. Canine team earned second place in the 11th annual South Georgia Canine Training and Certification Workshop. In memoriam, we lost one of our former police chiefs. James Stone, age 89, passed away Wednesday, August 26, 2020, at his residence. I remember Chief Stone, when I first became a council member, all of our meeting packets were hard copy and had to be delivered to each council member, and that's where I met him. I mean, it was like clockwork. On Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., he showed up my doorstep with the packet. He was very disciplined, I'll tell you that. Under sustainability, we took proactive steps to provide the citizens with a sustainable living environment. The goal of these programs is to define and implement the necessary steps to minimize the city's negative impact on the environment while promoting energy efficiency and cost savings. The Little River cleanup that we do each year, 200 volunteer hours with over 2 tons of litter and debris collected and removed from Little River. The Bring One for the Chipper, the Christmas tree program, last year provided 397 trees. The street sweeper, this is, Brian and I were talking earlier, this is the most amazing statistic. 255,000 plus pounds of leaves and debris were picked up from the streets of Woodstock. And again, I'll tell you, no, I don't count those pounds. The Adopt a Trail program was instituted this year. The program initiated in 2020 that allows businesses, corporations, and organizations to adopt 1-mile sections of the trail system for cleanup events. There are currently 9 sections, all of which have been adopted. That picture there is the Town Lake Rotary Club, who, before we adopted this program, were already helping in cleanup and maintenance of the trail system. We upgraded our water meters. The program is auto system, allowing customers to monitor water usage through an app on their smartphone and reduce staff time through virtual meter readings. I'm learning more about that because the house we bought a couple of years ago, we put in a sprinkler system, and Rob and I have talked about the water bill quite often, right, Rob? I pay my water bill. Economic highlights. Even with the economic struggles of the year, Woodstock has seen a continuation of its robust local economy. While overall revenue was down 4.6 due to certain revenue streams being lower, the local economy was driven by retail sales and investments in construction. There was a $65 million increase in construction value from 2019, bringing the 2020 total to $185 million. So you can see that aspect of the business community has not slowed down at all. And if anybody's ever had to lay a pad of concrete or build a new structure, you know what the cost of building materials have gone. We issued 600 new business licenses. That's up 42% from the year before. 4,500 total permits were issued, which is up 44% from 2019. I've thought about that stat, and the only thing I can come up with is there's more home-based businesses due to the virtual situation that we're in. I can't figure out anything else that's the cause of that. 456 single-family permits were issued, which is up, again, 42% from the year before. Amazing numbers. Our financial excellence, we reduced the millage rate by 3.77%. The city's total debt decreased $2.5 million, and the debt rating was raised by Moody's debt rating scale to AA2. And what that means is, the financial people out there know, it means when we do borrow money, we get the lowest possible rate we can possibly get. We also had the 27th year of achievement in financial reporting by GOFA. The Woodstock DDA opened Made Mercantile in November with 7 member companies located in the Retail Small Business Incubator. In conjunction with the city, the DDA closed on the purchase of the current Morgan's Ace Hardware site. The current store will relocate to the new location this spring. That's the other elephant in the room, which I'll discuss a little bit later. Infrastructure. The city continued to invest in infrastructure improvements through smaller projects that incrementally improve traffic flow and pedestrian facilities. A major project that was funded this year utilizing a $3.27 million infrastructure grant from the state is the Hub Transformation Project that will change Mill Street to 2 ways, add a roundabout at the intersection of Mill and Town Lake, where the Red Barn business is, and add a left turn lane from Town Lake Parkway to Main Street, something I've been trying to get for years. Also on the infrastructure, we completed 5.4 miles of paving. We finished the water treatment plant improvements. We opened the Ridge Trail extension and the Reeves Street connection to Wood Park, and we added 4.511 miles of sidewalk. Rope Mill Road was aligned and the trail and sidewalk progress was made. You can see the new pictures there. This was highly warranted. The road was substandard, and we improved the alignment, making it a little bit straighter. But we also hope, whenever we get approval from the state, that we lower the speed limit to 25. The Buckhead Crossing and Ridgewalk Parkway intersections with Main Street both receive dual left turn lanes. Now, if you've ever taken Buckhead Crossing from the movie theater, hopefully they'll be back, or Bullock's, you can know what an improvement this was to that intersection. It also reduced accidents by a long shot. Old Rope Mill Park, the kayak launch was completed. This was a long, ongoing project, kind of a running joke that, this year we're going to have the kayak launch this year. So it finally happened. We're very proud of that, and also it's very, very, very much utilized. The downtown playground, I'm sure everybody's seen it by this time, has been a tremendous success. I think rivaling when we opened Woodstock Park. They're both heavily utilized. And there's also a trailhead with restrooms at the beginning of the trail system there. Under outreach and engagement, we continued, but doing it socially distanced. The city provided outreach and engagement programs for its residents and visitors. The picture there is the Shop with a Hero program, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. We went ahead and did that, and about 100 or so kids were affected by this program. Memorial Day, you know that we always have a ceremony in the park, but we were not able to this year. But we produced a virtual ceremony that garnered national media coverage. The 9/11 and Veterans Day ceremonies, instead of annual ceremonies, the Parks and Rec Department created an exhibit in the Visitor Center to commemorate Patriots Day and produced a virtual Veterans Day observance. Our Christmas parade, which is a highlight of a year for especially for kids and senior kids alike, Parks and Rec hosted the parade at River Ridge High School by having a reverse parade of lights, allowing parade goers to enjoy from the safety of their vehicle. And right off the bat, you're going to be thinking, why did we do River Ridge and not Woodstock? It was determined the path was a little bit easier for the cars to get through. But for this year, if we do the virtual again, we're going to look at Woodstock High School a little harder. Public Safety Foundation raised more than $100,000 for outreach programs like the Shop with a Hero program. Our Explorer Post 1609 won second place in their category against more than 3,500 other explorers at their annual competition in Gatlinburg. In Woodstock, raised more than $20,000 in Scarecrow Invasion with the Scarecrow Invasion and Jingle Mingle fundraisers, all of which is reinvested back into the community. WoodstockGA.gov was rebuilt and launched a new topic-based city website, making it easier to find the information being sought. Our Parks and Rec Master Plan received more than 300% more responses than the previous plan. It allowed staff to plan for facilities and programs raised on citizen feedback. Smart Woodstock, this is a great program. The master plan looked at technological advances for a better experience in the Main Street corridor that was completed and adopted. Pilot projects being considered included in-ground lighting crosswalk and parking availability technology. Just imagine soon you'll be able to have an app on your phone which you'll refer to when you need to park in downtown, and the app will tell you where there's a space available. The LCI update, the city received a $135,000 grant towards this $175,000 study to update the downtown and Highway 92 corridor development plans that were adopted in 2002 and 2013, respectively. The community engagement process is starting in February. And you can see some of the progress that we're making right outside here on Main Street. Woodstock Police Department completed 3-year assessment and maintained national and state certifications. Reported crime was down 21% from 2019, which is the lowest level in the decade. Instituted implicit bias training and provided training in social intelligence, doubling the state's requirement. I'd like to introduce Cal Moss today, but he's not with us. He and his family have COVID, but he's doing well. Governor Kemp recognized the PD for its internet crimes against children investigations. Also under community outreach, reduced in-person interactions, Woodstock Fire still reached over 7,000 citizens through outreach efforts. The response to 5,720 calls for service maintaining a 5-minute average response time. Under training, the fire department completed an average of 309 hours of training per employee with 100% EMS training and recertification for all personnel. I'd introduce Dave Sumas. You all know him, but he's currently a little busy. Under efficiency and security, I mentioned what a great job the IT department did. But they also assessed and assisted fire and rescue in moving to the new countywide dispatch system. GIS launched Data Hub with free data maps and the web apps and worked with the PD to develop an accident analysis dashboard to improve information gathering on accident trends and causes. City Reporter Parks inspection software found and repaired over 200 faults at park facilities. Our summer concert series. Right now, we plan on moving forward with it. We're taking the artists from last year, of course, that we had to cancel. We're moving them to this year, but we just jumbled the lineup. The first up on May 8th is Christopher Cross. If you don't know who he is, he did the theme from Arthur. And I did a little research on him. In 1979, his debut album received 6 Grammys for its work. Many of his hits were on there. The theme from Arthur came out on an album in 1981 and received the Oscar for Best Song of the Year. June 12th is the Black Jacket Symphony, and they'll be performing Tom Petty's Damn the Torpedoes. July 9th is the Ultimate Queen celebration with Mark Martel. He did some of the vocals for the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. August 14th is the Steep Canyon Rangers, which is Steve Martin's backup band when he does tours. Don't think Steve's going to be here, but if he shows up, we'll welcome him, I think. And then last is a local band, which is Rumors on September 18th. They are a Fleetwood Mac cover band. That's the presentation as it stands. But talking about the first elephant in the room, COVID, it hit the city of Woodstock hard, not just citizens and business owners, but it hit home with our personnel. We've had some, lately especially, some positive cases. We're taking steps to make sure those folks are quarantined. It hit home personally. Jeff Moon contracted COVID back in July. He spent a little time in the Northside Hotel. It hit home for me. Myself, my wife Jan, my daughter Maddie, who's pregnant, and her husband Chase, we all contracted COVID. They had a really easy time of it. Me, not so much. I did have a visit to the ER. Luckily, I was not admitted. They gave me treatments and sent me home, and that's when I started turning the corner. So it did hit personally, and I'm sure some of you can say the same thing. Let me conclude before we do Q&A, if we have time, by saying that I think we can all agree that we're glad that 2020 is over. I think everybody celebrated New Year's Eve a little bit more than normal. While we normally look to the new year with optimism, this year we look at 2021 with an equal amount of fear, skepticism, and hope. On a positive note, we expect 2021 will see us conduct the public process for the Morgan's redevelopment project. That's the other elephant in the room. We expect that the hardware store will move to their new location in April and begin the public engagement portion of the planning process shortly thereafter. What that means is you will have input on what goes on that site. You'll be afforded the opportunity to give your opinions, and we do listen to the public. We hope for sure that we'll add a small hotel. Boutique is the term they use. Meeting space, a parking deck, offices, and additional retail and restaurants to downtown. Associated with the project will be other infrastructure improvements that will go along with the project to improve traffic flow. So we're not just going to plop these facilities on that property. We're going to take into consideration how you have to get in and out without impeding the traffic that's already there. No matter what 2020 brings, I know that our community is strong and we can make it through together just like we did in 2020. Now, a couple of years ago, my wife did my DNA, and of course, my last name, Henriquez, we found out, which we've known for years, but we confirmed, is Portuguese. And I'm told it means good sailor for some reason. I'm not sure. But part of the DNA process came out that I'm 53% Irish. I have two grandmothers that were straight from the homeland. So with that in mind, I'd like to leave you with an old Irish blessing. May there always be work for your hands to do. May your purse always hold a coin or two. May the sun always shine on your window pane. May a rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you. May God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you. Here's to a prosperous and better 21. Thank you. Now, unlike last year, the house lights are already up, so I can actually see you when you have a question. So if you will raise your hand, Brian has a microphone. Wait till he gets to you. And then I believe he has a little gift for those that ask a question. Anybody? Come on. I didn't do that good of a job.
The gift is really, really good for 2020. You get a shot glass.
There you go. Very appropriate, celebrating getting rid of 2020, right?
I don't have anything.
Anybody? There's one.
In regards to the future development of the Ace Hardware site, how will the public be informed of the options that are being considered and when input is requested?
Brian can probably do a better job. I think your department will be in charge of that. Is that true?
I think, Jeff, maybe, I don't remember when we talked about this in April, but we will have general public meetings, but then also if you are in the neighborhood that's directly affected, there'll be additional meetings for them. And we had set out 3 or 4 options for that even before any kind of zoning or development plans go before Planning Commission and City Council.
I tell you, that was the most frequent question I'm asked, so I figured that would be number one. Brian, there's one in the back right. Dan, hold on until he gets to you.
Thanks, Brian. 2 things. First, Mayor Donnie, thanks for your leadership. Secondarily, there's another elephant in the room.
Uh-oh.
Have you considered whether or not you're going to run again?
Uh-oh. 2021, as I mentioned, is my last year in my 4th term. I have not quite decided yet or not, and of course, if I did, this probably isn't the right venue to announce that. I'm about 90% there on the decision, whether I do it or not. The main reason I would consider running again is the Morgan's Ace Hardware site. This is a very, very important project for the city. One of the 4 major corners in the hub of our downtown. So you can see how important this project is. And again, if I were to do it, that would be the reason. So thanks for the question, Dan. Get your shot glass. I'm good, thank you. Anybody? Mike Bird.
Yes. Are there any upcoming plans for large apartment complexes in the city?
No, we still have a moratorium on apartments. We instituted a percentage several years ago. We're over that percentage, so we're not considering right now any one large component being offered. However, saying that, if an apartment complex developer comes in and builds without variances, that's their right. We have no recourse to stop them, which I think is perfectly normal. So, yeah, again, we don't have anything in the pipeline, do we?
Don't mess this up. So I'll do it without it. The only 2 things, there are 2 that have entitlements. There's 140 units as part of South on Main that were approved in the mid-2000s. They haven't built yet. And Avonlea on Stonebridge Parkway or Hancock Road has a final phase that were already approved. Right now, there are no others in the pipeline. There was recently one that was denied. It's appealing the decision to court, but that's the only thing currently pending. Thank you.
As Mike well knows, you spend a lot of time in court when it comes to zoning cases. For some reason, people can't take no for an answer, so they file suit. So it's part of the daily process. Anybody else? I know y'all want that shot glass. There's one in the back, Brian.
With Morgan's, when you're talking about the site that we're going to change, Is there any incorporation of pedestrian safety? Because there are still a lot of cars flying up, and there's pedestrians crossing to go to the concert and such.
Yes, ma'am. You heard me mention briefly in the presentation about our Smart Woodstock program. So we're continuing to constantly improve pedestrian safety. And that will be an important component of that project. I anticipate, this is not set in stone, that East Main, which is right in front of the train depot, freight kitchen and tap, that will probably be closed off to car traffic as part of the redevelopment. And we will reroute cars getting into that area. Public safety, pedestrian safety is first and foremost when it comes to downtown development. So rest assured that will be part of the program. Hope I answered your question. Anybody? Oh, all the way up, Bonnie. She wants that shot glass too.
I'm interested in knowing whether or not City Hall ever intends to move back downtown.
Yes. I'm sure everybody heard the question about a City Hall moving back downtown. As you all know, we own this entire corner, including the parking lot behind us. So council made the decision when we moved administration, PD, building department, so on and so forth, to the annex on Highway 92, that we would commit to bringing at least a portion of the services back downtown. It will not be a full-fledged city hall in all probability because of space requirements. But you can tell that eventually the plan, the thinking is to have another parking deck back here with a new city hall attached to it. What that looks like, don't know at this point. This has taken a back seat to the Morgan's Ace Hardware site. Originally, this was going to be in the plans. Hopefully, I was going to stay around and see that through. But Morgan's has taken priority. And like I said earlier, if I run for re-election, Morgan's is the reason. I can't see myself sticking around after that to see the new city hall take form. So thank you for the question. Anybody else? I think we have room for one more. No? Well, this was a strange year, as you know. The quirk of the calendar means you guys got to see this before City Council. So please don't tell them what I talked about we're doing on Monday night. So, thank you all for attending.
Once in your life, you find her, someone who turns your heart around, and next thing you know,